Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacalyn. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacalyn at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome wherever you are in the world joining us. We are so happy to have you here at USA Global TV, and also hello to our friends on Business Talk Radio. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and it is my pleasure and privilege to bring a new show to our audience. My co-host is Justin Mirigliani. He is a dear friend, a fabulous human being, and someone who is so accomplished. He is a corporate instructor, TV show host, author, CEO of Checkmates Charitable Association, and an entrepreneur. Let's bring him on to the show. Our show today is Entrepreneur and So Much More. Hi, welcome.
Dr. Jacalyn, thank you so much. I really appreciate that introduction. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I am just so excited, Justin. You and I spoke, I don't know how many years ago, 3 years ago, maybe, about doing something together. And then
Yes.
at a spin event for charity, actually just kind of said, hey, let's do this thing.
Yeah, and it's been a long time. And as you've known through the years, I've been in television before with shopping networks online and doing all of that. And I really, really wanted to get back into television. So this is the best place I could ever think of to do it. So thank you for setting up this platform. Really, really appreciate that.
Oh, you're such a great addition to our team here, Justin. And I love this topic because, as you know, I left my corporate career and became an entrepreneur, and I've got a few businesses, and it's a tough thing. And success as an entrepreneur sometimes seems elusive or evasive, but they're
Oh, yeah.
actually concrete steps that we can take. So before we begin with our show today, I'm going to spotlight you. And I'd love for you, as the co-host, this is the first time we're doing this show, just put it all out there, everything that you are doing and anything about your background that you want our audience to know.
Yeah, well, I started in school really with the basketball team at Cabrini College. I was the voice of our team for 3 years and sports director of the radio station, sports editor of the newspaper, and that was a lot of fun. I really liked communications. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get into sports communications, but I really didn't want to have to travel all over the country and cut my teeth at a lot of small stations and get involved with that. So I really didn't do that right away. And communications has always come back to me. When I got out of school, the first few jobs that I had were in mutual funds and stocks and bonds, and you really wouldn't think that's something that a communications major would love, and that's right. You don't love those things at all. And it was miserable for me. So finally, I got a chance to get into corporate training, and I've been doing that for almost 23 years now. I just can't believe that I just said that number, 23 years. I started out teaching mostly, the Microsoft Office products, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and I still train those a lot. But I also do soft skills over the last few years, communication skills, public speaking, conflict management, things like that. And it's really fun for me to be able to do that. And it's amazing, as sad and as upsetting and as much as I wish that this pandemic never happened, it has exploded my business. And uh, there's kind of a guilt that you feel with that because so many people are suffering and so many people are not doing as well. But what's happened is people need more computer skills, especially things like Microsoft Teams. I train that constantly, probably 3-4 times a week. Whereas about 5 years ago, I would train it, if I was lucky, maybe once or twice a quarter. So that's really what I've been doing for a long time. And also my charity, it's about, well, 15 years ago or so, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, and really, you know my story, and I'll make it quick for the viewers. It was 12 years that I battled the disease in at varying stages of success, and finally in 2015, I was diagnosed with high grade dysplasia, which is a precursor to colon cancer. And really, the only option that I had was to have my entire large intestine removed. And right now, I live with permanent ileostomy. And because of that, it inspired me to not only have my business where I'm making money, but also try to help other people. And that's what Checkmates is all about. I've been running Checkmates since 2014, actually. And we play celebrity hockey games against NHL alumni around North America. Uh, Unfortunately, COVID has shut us down over the last 2 years, but we had games set up in Toronto and back here in the Philadelphia area. And really, what I'm trying to do with Checkmates is make this something that goes around the really all of North America. I'm not sure that'll become a global thing. I mean, that'd be great if it could, but certainly in North America, there's a humongous following for hockey here in the U.S. And especially obviously Canada. That's their national sport, really. Um, so that's really what I'm trying to do with Checkmates. And talking about the world, how small the world is. Going back to the computer training, uh, I never trained internationally until the pandemic. That's another thing that's changed over the last really 2 years now. You're what 12 year and 8 months, 9 months, whatever it is, and now I'm training people all over the world and not flying there, which is great. I mean, being able to work in my home office and train people in all these applications. Like I said, a lot of them are the Microsoft applications, Microsoft Teams, and really, we're the show is the entrepreneur and so much more. And I want people to realize that I'm not talking about myself. I may sound conceited that, oh, he thinks he's the entrepreneur and so much more. That's really not what it's about. It's about you being the entrepreneur and so much more. What can you do to be an entrepreneur and be successful at it? And also successful in other phases of your life. And as Dr. Jacalyn knows, I'm very big into powerlifting. I'm a weightlifter. I've been doing that for a very long time, since I was 15 years old. And that's another aspect of my life. I don't see that as a separate part of the entrepreneur. So what I hope we're going to do with this show, and my goal, and what we're going to strive for, is to introduce you to people who do this, who are entrepreneurs and who take that beyond just what they do in their business. I mean, I'm a computer instructor, but I'm also a father and a husband and a weightlifter and a hockey player and a philanthropist. And I've written a book about what it was like to have my entire world changed when I lost my colon and now having permanent ileostomy. So I've become an author. There's so many things that you can be. Um, but with that said, it takes work. I'll give you an example. I own a guitar and I own a keyboard. Now I can play around and tinker around with those things and have some fun and just kind of let off steam a little bit. But I don't call myself a musician because I'm not really a musician. I'm just having a little bit of fun with the instruments. So having a business and starting a business really only takes about 2 hours, to be honest with everybody. At least in the U.S. When I created my LLC, it took me literally about 2 hours to set it up. Now, did that equal success? Not really, not right off the bat. I mean, was I an entrepreneur? Yeah, but was I a successful entrepreneur? Well, if you're looking at the bank account, no. I was only pulling in maybe 30,000 a year when I started. Uh, back in '02, and then when I incorporated in '09. So that's what we want to talk about as well. Anybody can be an entrepreneur, but the key is wanting to be a successful entrepreneur, and I really think most people can do that. I really don't, and I say this honestly. I don't think I'm unique. I think maybe what is unique with me and other entrepreneurs that are successful is our drive might be a little bit higher than other people. Um, and that's not a knock. I mean, that's just sometimes we're able to tap into that and other times we can't. I can't say that early on I worked as hard as I should have. I think that I should have put more time in, and I think I let the ball slip a little bit. But you grow older and you learn more things, and I think success breeds success as well. Um, Back in 05, '04 actually, uh, I was contacted by a famous, I won't use the name, but a shopping network, and everybody knows what it is. It's on cable, and we would reach 30 million people at one time, and I was doing shows in front of 30 million people on TV. Now, I never expected in my life to be able to be a subject matter expert on anything in front of 30 million people. But here I was on the air, and that made me think that other big things were possible. If I could be on the air and I could be in front of all these people as a subject matter expert on computers, I was selling for a computer company. I would demonstrate how the computers worked and why you should buy them, and we talked about all the great things that those computers did. And you know, once that happened, I started to dream a little bit bigger. Another thing that I did um, is I started at another company. So I have three companies. I have my training company, which is just for you training and consulting, and that's where I do the computer training, soft skills. I build websites for folks who have trouble with that, or who need that service. And I also started Checkmates. Again, that's the charity for Crohn's and colitis and people with an ostomy. But I also have had a love for hockey growing up. It's been a humongous part of my identity from really almost birth. I mean, I grew up in a sports family, and the Flyers were a big deal in Philadelphia, especially as I was growing up. And I just about, well, I don't want to say just 2 years ago, we started a documentary about the Philadelphia Flyers, and I had some of my childhood heroes in my house. I mean, I never thought that something like that would happen to me. And guys are so gracious. They came over and they stayed for about 6, 7 hours, 8 hours, and we had a meal together and we shot this documentary. And I started a production company called Full Bag Productions. And it's not uh, super successful yet. I mean, it's going to take some time to build that up. First time I'm ever doing a documentary, so it's not easy. And but again, the drive, the wanting to do that, and then to finally see the trailer that was done, it was amazing. I thought, my goodness, we really did a great job, and got a long way to go. But that's part of the entrepreneur spirit is knowing that there's a lot ahead and being willing to say, okay, I'm going to take that head on, and we'll get there. Um, I always, we're a big Hershey Park family. My family and I, we go there a lot. And if you know anything about Milton Hershey, he went bankrupt 6 times. Now, of course, at the end, the story is that he was so successful. Now, I'm not planning on going bankrupt anytime soon, and I wouldn't suggest that for any of the viewers either. But if you have times where you're not successful right away, that doesn't mean that ultimately you won't be successful. It may be a couple of times where you get knocked down and you have to get back up again. It's the old cliche, but it's true. And I'm looking forward to that with the documentary. Is once the pandemic is over and I'm able to try to find companies that would be willing to help us with sponsorship, and then we move forward with that. So there's a lot that I do. I think, and I've been on some of Dr. Jacalyn's other shows, which are amazing, and I'm so thankful for her friendship and for her willingness to let me be a part of this. But I've done shows with her before, and one of the things that I remember we talked about a lot uh, was that you really, there's a feeling I think that a lot of people have, and I really had to think this through, where um, if you feel like you've lost out in other aspects of your life, sometimes you want to compensate. I feel like I lost about 12 years, or at least big parts of 12 years with colitis, and then of course the surgery. And I can't let that be a tragedy in my life. I need to use that and say, you know what, that made me better at being an entrepreneur today, and that's going to make me be successful later. Because if I'm not, then I won't be able to help but look back at that time and say, gee, that was a terrible thing, and there's no positive to it. So that's really a key for me.
Justin, wow, so many incredible points that I want to sort of address one at a time. So let's talk about the colitis.
Yeah.
I'm also a patient, and I totally agree. When things like this, when you have a dis-ease, you're having something that's incurable, it really makes you look at life from a different perspective. And I feel that it's driven me my whole life, even though I didn't realize it. I should say since 1991 when I was diagnosed. And we do lose out on a lot of time in life when we're sick or other things come up. Something else you shared with me, and I'm not going to just verbalize it, but you had an incredible accomplishment that happens during the pandemic. You were talking about your business. And the reason I bring it up is it is difficult to make money as an entrepreneur. And sometimes people get to a point where they just can't take it anymore because the bills are piling up, people are calling, and the money's not coming in. So I also want to address on this show, what does somebody do? How do you know when you say, you know what, this must be a hobby and I better just go get a job? I've got to get 2 or 3 part-time jobs in order to sustain what I'm doing. Or you just say to yourself, you know what, I'm not going to let those distractions about money or bill collectors or anything else bring me down. I'm going to stay the path and continue on.
I think that's something that everybody has to decide at some point. I don't think there is a cookbook answer to say this is when you make the decision either to stop being an entrepreneur or you just stay the course. If you're single and you have some money saved up, then yeah, I mean, you might stay a little longer. You might say, you know what, I haven't been successful yet, but I don't have a lot of money problems right now. I'm going to give it more of a try. In my case, I have a wife and 2 kids. If I was pulling in $30,000 still today, then there's no way I would be able to continue it. I would have to say maybe this is a side gig. Maybe I could do this on weekends and train people and help them. But you're right. I would have to go out and get a job. So it's not an easy answer. It's not, everybody should always follow this path. Um, I saw a lot of upside potential in computers because obviously we're all dependent on computers today, and that's a big thing. And the other thing that my wife and I are trying to do right now is start a curriculum for kids because in the schools, at least in America, they're not using the Microsoft products, and that's all that's used across the world is Microsoft products. So you got to look for things that are possible niches. They're not all going to come true. They're not all going to work out. Uh, an example would be Dr. Jacalyn. If you talk about if I wanted to be a movie producer right now, would I drop everything right now? And because I have this documentary started, would I do this as my career? Well, no, I'm not going to make enough money to do that. It's a money drain at this point. So it's a hobby, as you said. You use it as something that you try to do later on. That's all.
But I think it's really important, Justin, that you realize that
Yeah.
because I'm a big fan of Shark Tank. And I quote Mr. Wonderful many times, but he's actually called people out on the carpet, literally saying, what you have is a glorified hobby. It's not a business. And we have to be able to look at it and say, okay, how can I make it an effective business? Where are the revenue streams? Who am I partnered with? Who's my audience? How am
Right.
I presenting myself? What is my branding? One thing that I learned, and I'd love to have you weigh in on this, as an entrepreneur, obviously much more recent than you. I retired in 20, now I guess it's 2020. It goes by so fast.
It
But
is correct.
who's your audience and how are you communicating to them? When I first started, everything I was writing and putting out there was about me, was about what I was doing. It's like, oh, you should be excited because I'm doing this. Who cares? No one cares what I'm doing. What does it mean to them? So how do you take that messaging and make it about the customer? And I see this now that I interview people all the time and I look at their marketing. I'm like, oh no, you're doing what I did there, friend. What are your
I'm
thoughts about it?
it's brilliant. I mean, that's really what it's all about. People don't want to hear a commercial about me as an individual, all of my accomplishments or things that I've done. I try to target my customers by telling them, look, I can make your career better. I mean, you can make more money. You could have the position you want if you have these skills, and they're skills that you can quantify. You go back. If I teach you how to create a pivot table, you could go back to your desk and actually create a pivot table and see if what you learned actually transfers. And these things transfer because that's what we're using all over the world, the Microsoft products, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. If you're a project manager and I train you how to use Microsoft Project, again, you can quantify that. Can I take that back to my desk? Can I sit down? Can I put in the information and see this project come to life? And the answer is yes. So I always tell people, it's not what I know. Take what I know and make it what you know, because that's what's going to make you more marketable in the long run. What and you know what? I think people look at entrepreneur um, and put it on a pedestal, which is fine. But not everybody's going to be an entrepreneur, and that's okay too. There are people who are not entrepreneurs that I know. I have friends who are, or they work for a company. They're not business people as far as creating their own business, but they're making six figures plus, and they're doing really, really well. So I really hope that part of the show talks about, and I think we will, Dr. Jacalyn, you and I, and our guests that'll be coming in the months to follow, that it's okay if you're not an entrepreneur. Maybe you're support for an entrepreneur, and that's important too.
Brilliant, because we don't want to isolate anyone or exclude anyone. I think it's about the entrepreneurial spirit as well, that many places where you work, you might be empowered to do something, and that can be your entrepreneurial spirit that you take and parlay into whatever it is you're doing. And Justin, something else I know we're going to be discussing on this show is, what does success look like? You talked about the paycheck and you were very honest about that. It was 30,000 for many years, right?
Yep.
Now, if your situation were different and you weren't a father and husband, like you said, you could have taken that 30, and that could have been, you could have changed the way you were living. I don't know how you were living, but I'm saying you could have made it on 30 and been happy for that autonomy and the freedom to make your own decisions and call your own shots. But at some point, you have to actually look at the budget, what's coming in and what's going out, and make some decisions about that. So one thing that I like so much as an entrepreneur is that I'm doing this. I'm actually doing it. This is what I do behind this green screen. I am here when I'm not on the show. I'm producing. I'm interacting with the team. We've got 23 team members now. It's so exciting, and I'm just so happy. Now, I gave up the six figures. I don't have the six figures now, but I'm happier than I've ever been, and the six figures are going to come because this is what I do, and I'm putting it out there. It's coming.
And the skills that you have before you became an entrepreneur are what is making you a great entrepreneur at this point. So it's
Thank you.
not, you're welcome. It's not just you work somewhere, you made six figures, you learned a lot of things and you learned how to become a six-figure employee. And that can translate into being a good entrepreneur.
Yeah, it was quite a journey. 28 years, I think. I'm giving away my age now, but who cares? So, Justin, I want to go back to something you said in the very beginning. And I'm glad that you clarified about in the United States, because obviously in other countries, we don't know what that process is like to start a business. Let's just talk from very basics, the two of us, what somebody has to do legally. And obviously, it might vary state by state. But for the two of us, you and I were both in New Jersey. I'm not there now, but starting businesses in New Jersey. I'm not sure, is that where you started yours when you did?
I did.
23? Yeah. Okay. So what are some of the steps that people have to take to start the business and become an entrepreneur?
Well, all I had to do really was go onto the website, the state website, and file to become an LLC. And you have to put in the information about what you're going to start with, how much money, your name. You got to apply for an EIN number and get that. But it really only took about 2 or 3 hours to do that. Now, again, here's another thing, and it ties in. If I asked a lawyer to do that, and luckily for me, my father is a retired lawyer, so he was able to kind of guide me through this process. But I know that other entrepreneurs, friends of mine, wanted to do this process, and a lawyer was going to charge them about $2,000 or $3,000 to do it. Now, I did it in 2 or 3 hours on my own with my father's help. So one thing I have done for people since is help them through this process, so they don't have to spend the $2,000 or $3,000 to get done, but you can do it on your own. You actually, if you follow the steps and you read everything, get a file for that EIN number, and then just go through the process of putting in the name of the company, doing business as. Obviously, you have to set up a bank account so that checks will go to the company. You definitely want an LLC, because if you get sued, you don't want them coming after your personal assets. That's really an important thing. In my personal business, that's less likely than if you're a plumber or if you're an electrician, because in those jobs, if you do make a mistake, they can cause injuries and potential deaths even. So you definitely want to be LLC'd. You're walking a tightrope if you're not, but it's really not a very difficult process to do.
Now, Justin, I think it's so interesting because I have a lawyer who helped me when I have 3 LLCs. Now I had 5 at one point, but I never did anything with 2 of them. And I went through an online company and they did the filing for me, and it cost $2,000+ and I had to wait. I think I did the gold rush package, and I think I had to wait about 20 days. So I just learned something from you that's very interesting, that you can go and do it yourself.
Yeah, you can. And in fact, I did it with the full bag productions. For what my father helped me with the first time, I remembered a lot of it. I was able to put that together in literally 2 hours. If you have $350 in New Jersey, you can start a company. And that, I know, it's crazy, right? I mean,
Shocking. Oh my goodness. We do have a comment from one of our team members, Mr.
sure.
Hyatt Ives. Thank you, Justin, for both the technical and the inspirational sides of making it happen.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And thank you for the comment. I appreciate you with the kind words. I appreciate that very much.
Thanks,
I
Hyatt.
really
Thanks for
do.
watching.
We really appreciate that.
So you file the paperwork, right?
Yep.
Now, what
hmm
about the registered agent? What's this all about? Is this something that everybody has to have?
Um,
Registered agent. So, for example, it's a company that acts as your agent if any documents from the state are filed, then you have to have a registered agent or somebody has to handle it. So in other words, let's say your address changes or
right,
yeah,
right. I handle all that on my own.
I
I
knew you were
do
going to
because
say that. I
yeah,
knew it.
yeah, yeah, I do because again, it's going to cost me thousands of dollars to not to hand that over to somebody else. And if it's going to cost me 3 or 4 hours, it's like I'm making $1,000 an hour, right?
Exactly.
I
Well,
mean,
you're looking
so
at somebody who has 3 registered agents. So there we go.
I
Okay.
mean, mhm.
Okay, so let's talk about the next thing. What about business insurance? When should somebody consider getting business insurance? And again, you talk to an attorney or an accountant or whomever.
I do have it through one of the companies that I subcontract with. Um, I didn't buy it myself. I didn't see the need for it. I didn't think I needed insurance for my company because again, it's I'm doing most of this stuff away from people. I'm on a computer screen. I'm not working in their homes. I'm not working on their cars. So there's really not a whole lot. But if you're in a business where if your work could cause damage, if there's a mistake that's made, that's when you really need the insurance.
Yes, good point. Okay, so we get the technicalities out of the way. We get the business up and running. We've got this fabulous name, right? Whatever it is.
Yeah,
And now we need a website, or do we?
we do need a website. Absolutely.
Okay,
If
tell us
you don't
about
have
that.
Yeah, if you don't have web presence, you're really not going to be able to at least look like a major company. I mean, if you looked at my website right now, you would have no idea that I really am the only person running the company, and I am.
It's
It's a one man band. But
it
if you
looks
look,
great, by the way. Let's put it back up so people can go over and check it out.
sure, I appreciate
Just
that.
for you, tc.com. Folks, go ahead over there and check it out while we're on the show so you can get an idea. It's a great looking website. So good. So you're the only person there, but it looks much more impressive.
Yeah, it does, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think people might say, well, that's you're lying or you're making yourself look like more than you are. You're not. If you can follow through on everything that you promise on that website, then you're really not embellishing. It is what it is. Um, Now, that website, in full transparency, was partially done by me. Now, most of it was done by a friend of mine because I didn't know at that point how to build a website yet. And he is a good friend from grade school and was willing to do it for a really good price. Now, when I started the charity and needed a website for the charity, he was unable to do it. So I priced it out. 3,000, 4,000, 6,000, 8,000. I was getting all these numbers and I'm thinking I don't have it, to spend on the charity. So I asked myself, what skills do you have? And I'm a computer person. So I said, can I build a Wix website? Can I teach myself how to do that? And I did do that. And I went out and I built the website. And the website that I built is just as professional as the one that I had gotten done. So,
I love that. I love that. I want
but
to
it's
share a little bit of
necessity.
it's so anybody who's watching on the live or the replay, you can build your own website. I built
Sure.
drjacalyn.com, the version that's been out there up until this weekend. I built it myself, and people would say, "Oh, it's loud. It's not easy to navigate. There's too much stuff on there." And I just thought, I love it. I love everything about it. I love the colors. I love this. I love that, because it was all about me because I created it. But yet my audience, my potential clients were saying, it's not that great, by the way. It's too cumbersome and big. And so I looked at hiring somebody from an online platform and gave the money, released the money in advance because the person was at the final stages. It was in the sandbox, it was being developed. And the person could not do what it was that I needed them to do. They just, because they're 22 hours ahead and there was a
Mhm.
communication issue, but they could not deliver on what it was. So that was money that was just goodbye, see you later money. And that's happened in other aspects of being an entrepreneur. So I stuck with the website that I have, and now I have an official agency that has taken it over and so relaunched it. But the point is that I have found, not knowing what I didn't know, that I trusted people that I shouldn't have trusted, and that it cost me money.
Sure. And that's that. But you live and learn.
Yeah,
You try to avoid those things, obviously, but every entrepreneur is going to get their toe stubbed on something like that. And it's just inevitable. But you have to brush it off. And, I beat myself up a lot of times when those things happen. I get so frustrated. You should know better than this. You've been doing this. But everybody makes mistakes. Just
yeah,
part of the game. Just part of the game.
it's it's true. And I don't beat myself up over it anymore because I've learned things. This is really kind of cool, and I'd love to have your input on it. I was taking a course to become certified in meditation, which I now am. And the organization that does this training, the woman who runs it, she's very well connected because she was on Wall Street for years. And she puts together a business course. In this business course, you have leading experts who are going to come and spend an hour and give you a download of some information. So this one person was speaking, and I went over to her website, and she charges $6,500 an hour. And I was like, what? And I thought, you know what? I want to know what could she possibly know for, like, is there a 20-minute free consultation? So there wasn't. But the next week there was another guy who was presenting, and he was $3,000, something like, for two consultations for an hour each. So anyway, I said to him that if he would speak to me for 15 minutes, that I would consider hiring him. So he spoke to me for 15 minutes, and he looked at my website and he looked at what I was doing. And he asked me this question that I had never really thought of, as ridiculous as it sounds, already out there as an entrepreneur. Who is your target market, and what is it that you offer in terms of value? And I said, wow, that's a great question. No one's asked me that before. So I told him, and he said, your website and your marketing does not reflect any of that.
Wow.
I didn't hire him, by the way, but I did take that information and I did
Good.
use it.
That's fair. You told them up front.
Yeah, I told him up front. But see the point of what I'm trying to make, that as somebody who worked in corporate who didn't do any of these things, that I was missing the mark. The mark was, who's your audience and what's your value? And for everybody out there, that's key.
It is. It really is. And it's, you know, I think you have to decide what is worth learning and being able to do and what is just beyond your scope. So I built the website using Wix, which is point and click, and there's some more technical things in there that I was able to figure out. But I thought to myself, gee, if I learn HTML and I learn how to code, I could do all these crazy great things. And I had to ask myself, how much of that where's the return on investment with that? If I study like crazy and learn how to code, am I going to make more money or a lot more money because I know that? And the answer is no, I'm not. So you know what? I'm not buying HTML books, and I'm not going to sit down and study HTML.
That was a great decision because you looked at the time value of money.
Right.
So here's a question I have for you. I've had this debate with people since the beginning of time doing what I'm doing, not so much anymore, but how important is the logo? People get very wrapped up in the logo. Is somebody going to buy from you because of your logo? Are they going to buy from you because of your business card? Do we even use business cards? What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I'm part of a company where we sell business cards that are actually digital business cards.
Hmm.
These things are amazing. They're like really virtual websites where people could download information right to the phone. The picture comes up. My business card has video behind it. It really grabs attention. I do think that's a key. I really do. I think that that's a big deal. I don't use paper business cards anymore. Now, on my website, the first website where my buddy helped build it, uh, he's big into subliminal messaging, and part of the subliminal messaging was I have a logo where it looks almost like a graduation cap at the top of my logo, so it connotes uh, study and academia and learning, and that's really what he was thinking about when he made the logo. And I really didn't think of that before, and now when I build websites for people, I think about that. And if I build the logo, I think what subliminally, what do I want to say with this? Did you know that Amazon, it's a smile? I mean, that those things, it's a smile in there, and it's a subliminal. It grabs attention. It makes people want to look and learn more about it. So I think that's a big deal.
I think you're right. It is a big deal. I've always been on the side that it's a big deal, and other people are no, it's not a big deal. I think the website's a big deal because
Yeah.
it's your online presence of who you are.
Yeah, and I had an accountant one time tell me, don't even, this is a long time ago, don't even LLC, just be yourself. And I said, people want to know that they're going to a company. They don't want to go to Justin Mirigliani. They want to go to Just For You training and consulting. There's a huge difference between the two. And it just looks more professional. It gives people more confidence that you know what you're doing, that you're a business, you know how to get it done.
Absolutely. That's another great tip for our audience. And I'm so excited for all the future guests that are going to come on. But we could just do the show ourselves. We know that, but it's fun to bring other people on and hear where they are in their journey, whether they're just starting off or whether they've been around for a long time, and how has the pandemic impacted their business? How has technology impacted their business? How has globalization impacted their business?
Yeah, and some of the people that I'm looking forward to having on the show are just amazing people. They really have done well, and they're successful because they're successful at other things too. They're not just successful in business; they're successful in their lives, and that really matters. It makes a difference. I you know, I remember, and this is something from back years ago. I had a cousin who was in an industry, was in technically pornography. That was what he did for a living. He worked in that industry, and there's money that can be made there, and he did make money. And I remember thinking to myself, there's probably so many ideas that are in that industry. But at the end of the day, if I was a millionaire and I was an entrepreneur who started this business in the pornography field, would I be able to look my kids in the face and say, Daddy does this for a living? I couldn't do that. I just couldn't do that. It wouldn't. The money's not worth it to me. So to me, to be a successful entrepreneur, I got to be able to be happy about what I do too. It can't be, what would be dirty money or money that was done in a way that wasn't right. And to me, you can be a billionaire, and if you can't look in your kids and say, "This is what I do for a living," are you successful? I don't know. I
Exactly.
don't. I don't think so. I don't think so. At least for me. At least for me.
Yeah, I think and we started off with that. What does success look like for each of us? To me, it's not the money either. And all the money that I made all those years, I'm so much happier. I'm very grateful that I had those experiences because it led me to where I am today. But I have this ability to create and produce and learn. I learned how to broadcast. I have all these devices here. I didn't know anything about any of them.
And you wrote a
And
book about it afterwards too,
yeah,
which
and
is
I
great.
wrote a book about. I mean, yes, exactly. It's just it's an incredible journey. So I hope that while the great resignation is taking place, that people are really seriously looking at what is it that drives them. What do they feel passionate about? You're very passionate about what you do. I'm passionate about what I do. And I'm so glad that you brought up the other parts of your life as well. I love that with the weightlifting. I'd love for you to share a little bit more about that, because you're not just lifting weights. Okay. You're going for breaking record after record. And let's talk a little bit more about that. So, what is it that gave you this passion for weightlifting, and where is it you're trying to go with it?
Yeah, I really, growing up, I grew up in South Philadelphia. It's a tough town, and people are, manhood is a big deal there. And part of that was being big and strong. And I always got into that. And by 15, I started lifting weights pretty seriously. And when I was told that I was going to lose my colon, I was devastated. I thought, I can't lift weights anymore with an ileostomy. And every doctor I talked to, every nurse that I talked to, they said the same thing. They said it's really not a great idea to power lift. And I couldn't handle that. I couldn't handle that something that was such a big part of my life is going to go away forever and gone. So I just said, I'm going to do it anyway. And I do lift heavy. I'm trying to become the first person with ileostomy that I know of to bench press 400 pounds. And it's funny. It's every time I get close, I got up to 385 pounds on the bench press, and then shoulder injury, and then you go back down a little bit. You got to lift back up again, and it's a tough thing to get to, especially naturally. I obviously don't do steroids or any kind of performance enhancing drugs, but yeah, I mean it's a goal, and I want to be able to say that I was, despite being told that you're not going to do this anymore, I was be able to get to that level. And I hope that would be an inspiration to other people with an ostomy, because when I was told that I was going to lose my colon, I I was really searching for any kind of hope that I would still be an athlete or be able to do anything like that and be strong and still be a man. Um, and I'll tell you, my surgeon introduced me. Not He didn't introduce us personally, but he told me about Rolf Benershka, who's now become a really dear friend of mine, and he kicked in the NFL for the San Diego Chargers for 7 years with an ostomy. And I told Rolf this. That was the minute that I knew that weightlifting wasn't over. And unbelievably, the night of surgery, I said to my parents, I said, one day I'm going to be working with Rolf and we're going to do things together. And 2 years ago, we got together, and he's working on an amazing app. I'm going to have him as one of the guests, hopefully. And the inspiration that he gave me was amazing. And that's part of the reason why I'm going to get to the 400 pounds. And I know I'm going to do it. It's just going to take some time. That's all.
You can already see yourself doing it. I can see you
I
doing
can.
it. Yeah. Now, I have a question for you. For this
Sure.
momentous occasion, is your wife or your children, are they there each time with the camera ready to film if this is the moment?
I believe it or not, this is going to sound crazy to everybody. My wife and kids spot me, actually. So I
It takes a village, doesn't it?
yeah, so I had my wife spotting me for 380 one time, and luckily I got it up and I didn't need help, but she was there just in case.
Now, does she lift weights also?
She does not. She does not, but she exercises. She's in good shape.
But to be a spotter, you don't have to.
No, I mean, usually it's just a couple of fingers on the bar to help guide it up a little bit.
Yeah.
It's usually just relieving about 20 pounds of weight. Yeah.
But somebody's got the camera.
Yes. My
Yeah.
daughters usually have the camera.
I can't wait. I know very soon you're going to be sharing that photograph with us on the show.
I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely.
So, Justin, for people who are just joining and they're thinking, wow, this is a cool show. How do I get to be on the show? Is it by invitation only, Justin, or is it going to be people just that you're inviting, or are you open to having somebody from the public join?
Oh, I'm open to having somebody join from the public. If they want to contact us, that'd be great. If they have a story to tell, if they're an entrepreneur or have been an entrepreneur, we'd love to hear stories from people. I think inspiration's key.
Definitely. So you see Justin's email is there, Justin, Justin, at just for the word FORUYOUTC.com. Well, it's been a fabulous show. The time flew by, of
It
course.
did.
And Justin, just let our audience know, when can they find the show? We're going to be doing it.
We're going to be doing it monthly. Right now, we're going to, with the eye to go to twice a month, but right now it's going to be monthly on Mondays at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So please join us. And if anybody wants to be a part of it, as Dr. Jacalyn said, we'd love to have you. So
Fantastic. Thank you.
entrepreneurs out there, come on in.
Yay! So all you have to do, folks, I'll put it in the comments. You can just go over to USA Global TV. That's everything, usaglobaltv.com. Book your session. You'll find the show, Entrepreneur and So Much More. And then you can book the session. You can email Justin if you want to speak to him. You can email me. We're here. We're happy to help you. And to watch the show after the fact, because there's so many gems here that you're going to want to revisit it and share with your friends, go over to our YouTube channel, which is USA Global TV, and just click subscribe, and you'll see playlists, Entrepreneur and So Much More. The show will be there shortly after we close out. So, Justin, I'm going to spotlight you again. Tell people how they can reach you and who should reach out to you in terms of business.
Yeah, anybody who's in a business where you need computer training, you want to get your staff up to speed on all the latest and greatest technology. If you're looking for a job, I know a lot of people are really hurting right now and need a job and needs the skills. You can come to justforutc.com. My email is justin@justforutc.com. And if you're interested in getting involved with helping those with Crohn's and colitis, we're Checkmates Charitable Association, www.checkmatescharity.com.
Thank you so much. And Justin, I want our audience to know that we were actually connected because of the Crohn's Colitis Foundation. That's one of the employees there, Dawn, thought there'd be some nice synergy between us. And I remember the very first conversation I had with you, I think it had just been snowing and the sun had come out, and I was sitting in my car excited to get out of the apartment and spoke to you on the phone, and here we are. So you just never know where a connection is going to take you. So I would also suggest for everybody, just my experience, have an open heart, help other people, and put yourself out there, and it will come back to you tenfold, I promise.
It's the truth. It really is the truth.
It is. And I just want to share the website so you can see it visually, usaglobaltv.com. Book your session. All right, Justin, that's a wrap for us today for Entrepreneur and So Much More. We look forward to seeing you next month, the first Monday of the month at 5 p.m.
Sounds good. See you then, everybody.
Bye, everybody.